Bing and Bob, Bob and Bing. What is there to say? Well, actually, I think there's quite a lot to say. But if they're looking down from the entertainment pantheon, they're probably saying to us, "What? Are you nuts? Those movies were just a joyride, so don't get all serious on us." But seriously, I want to get in my 2 cents about how even a movie that is escapist and is as silly as this one deserves to be called a classic. I mean, what else would you call a film in which two shipwrecked guys wind up on a camel that looks straight out at the audience and says, "This is the screwiest movie I've ever seen"? The Road to Morocco, released by Paramount 78 years ago, is still a hoot, but it's a hoot with some astonishing intelligence behind it. It came out in 1942. We certainly didn't know who was going to win World War II then, and what could we do but try to laugh it away? The boys, I gotta call them the boys, even though they were both 39. The boys made 7 of these road pictures, beginning with Road to Singapore in 1940 and winding up in Hong Kong in 1962, all of them with Dorothy Lemur on hand, though she only got a cameo in Hong Kong. Singapore, that first one, was roundly panned by the critics, but by the time everybody got to Morocco, where we are headed tonight, even the snobby reviewers finally caught on and grudgingly raved because there was inspired mayhem going on here. But before Morocco beckons, how did they get on these roads in the first place? There may be a few surprises in here for you. However, I bet almost all of you know that Bob Hope actually grew up in Cleveland. He began his career as a hoofer in vaudeville, then he moved on to radio, and believe it or not, Broadway. As a singer, he could hold the stage quite nicely with Ethel Merman in 1936. Together, they introduced Cole Porter's It's the Lovely. In 1938, he won a small part in a film musical, The Big Broadcast of 1938. Look at how small his billing is there. And he showed us that he wasn't all brash. He could pull back when he needed to. After all, it was Bob Hope and Shirley Ross who introduced the witty but wistful Thanks for the Memory, which became his signature. He did weekly radio, he did lots of movies, loads of television, to say nothing of entertaining the troops during World War II, the Korean War, and even Vietnam. He kept going until not long before his death in 2003 at 99. As for Bing Crosby, it did not take long for him to be recognized as one of the great vocalists of his generation. A man who expertly borrowed African American phrasing even before the swing era, but created his own super relaxed style. A man who seemed to be the guy next door. And like Bob Hope, he was a workaholic. Hundreds of recordings, radio, movies, TV, and he too was a trooper, still performing before his own death in 1977 at 74. But you know what? Ironically, it was the low-budget road movies that made Bob a movie star. As you can see, Bing was already a star in 1930. The series gave them their personas as one of the great musical comedy teams. I would put them right up there with the Marx Brothers. Yes, I would. Bob was a likable but brash, cowardly hero, as Stanley Green puts it. Bing, says his biographer Gary Giddens, was loyal but devious, which made for amazing chemistry. It freaks me out to consider that originally for Road to Singapore, Paramount was going to cast Jack Oakey and Fred McMurray. What were they thinking? They wound up with the two contract players we know so well, and the rest is historic inanity. So, what have we really got here, anyway? That's a good question, I think. You could say that we've got a satire on all of those exotic, epic, 1001 Arabian Nights movies, but I think satire is just too fancy a word for a movie with so much low comedy shot on the Paramount backlot. We've also got what was known in the 1970s as a buddy film, although not really, because Bob and Bing insult each other much more than Robert Redford and Paul Newman did, and they even do it in song. One of their duets in another road movie is the ironic "Put it there, pal," in which Bob takes note of Bing's apparel. To wit, "I like the way you wear those gaudy colored shirts you've got. The only time a rainbow ever covered up a pot." But the insults, you see, never get snarky or mean. In real life, they were very close friends. You may ask, have we really got a musical here? Or is this just a comedy with 4 songs tossed into it? I say it's a musical because the songs are used in strategic places to give us some relief from the relentless comedy. And because they're such damn good songs, written by the team of Johnny Burke and Jimmy Van Heusen, Bing's favorite songwriters during that period. They nailed his persona. One of my favorites from a later film is "My Heart is a Hobo." In this one, there's the equally laid back "Ain't Got a Dime to My Name." By the way, Bing's "Moonlight Becomes You" from this movie is one of the best and most poetic American ballads of the 1940s. And in a comedy number like the title song, they're both wearing smarty pants. Don't miss the couplet, "We certainly do get around. Like Webster's dictionary, we're Morocco bound." We've also got the glamorous and terrifically talented Dorothy Lemur, who too often is given short shrift, I think, in these movies. She knows how to play off both of the boys with finesse. Bing always wins Dorothy in the end, of course, but Bob also gets a girl in this one, the equally delectable Donna Drake. And we've got the 27-year-old Anthony Quinn as the villain. That's right, Anthony Quinn. Director David Butler told him, "Play it straight as if you don't know you're in a comedy." And so he did. We've got a dramatic, pseudo-exotic background score that makes this movie sound dead serious until someone opens his mouth. We have also got a movie that couldn't be more different from all the classy MGM musicals we've been sampling in this series. Paramount, writes Ethan Morden, let their stars go wild. In fact, Bing and Bob improvise a lot, as you can imagine, and the screenwriters were on the set just in case the writers came up with something even better than the improvisation in that moment. We've got a lot of direct addresses to the audience, what we call in the theater breaking the fourth wall. And I don't just mean the camel, but the boys themselves. I'm thinking they picked this up from Groucho, but whoever they stole it from, they established their own trademark. One critic says, it's like watching a movie watching itself. In the title song, they even tell you what's going to happen. From the back of the camel, they promise where we're going, why we're going, how can we be sure. Lay 8 to 5 that we'll meet Dorothy Lemur. Today's critics can't help themselves from intellectualizing about this stuff, and I can't blame them. Ethan Morden writes, they reject illusion, and in so doing, they enhance it. Deep thought. And finally, we do get ethnic stereotypes in the whole Road series. But because the stereotypes are so ridiculous, they somehow don't seem quite as offensive as a few of the scenes in Stormy Weather do. I would say, think of Mel Brooks, The Producers. Well, no more intellectualizing, except one more phrase by Clive Hirschhorn, who writes, sublimely harebrained. I, for one, have never used sublime that way before, but I get his point. This is timeless. And now we are off on the road to Morocco with two master wisecrackers. I'm Bill Rudman from the Musical Theater Project, and I really mean it this time when I say, enjoy!